Hey y'all, and welcome to The Wannabe Author. I'm Taryn, a writer figuring out how to turn my publishing dream into reality, one chaotic step at a time. This is the place where we talk books, writing struggles, mental health, and everything in between. Whether you're a writer, a reader, or just curious about the process, I am so glad you're here. Let's jump in. Hey y'all, and welcome back to The Wannabe Author. I'm your host, Taryn Christine, and if you're new here, The Wannabe Author is just a fun little spot where I get to sit down with other authors and talk about their journey to publication. I am a wannabe author, currently learning how to make my big break into the publishing industry, so I get to hear all the many different ways of how other authors have gone into publishing, whether it be self-publishing or traditional publishing. We also get to hear about their advice for aspiring authors and their different writing routines. Today's author was just a genuine treat to talk to. She's been an author for a few years now. She just recently published her sophomore novel. Her very first novel, The Right Words, is a darling contemporary romance about two writers forced to co-write a love story. And her book that she just recently released, The Wingman, is a contemporary romance about an aspiring artist who returns back home to be reunited with her old friend. It was truly an honor to sit down with this author to talk about her journey to publication. She has such a unique story and, outside of writing, a unique lifestyle. It was truly such a privilege to be able to talk with this author, and it is my absolute honor to introduce you all to Meg Rosenthal. Okay. Hi, Meg. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Taryn?
I'm fantastic. Just so excited to get chatting with you.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited too. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course, of course. It's an honor, really. So, I always love to start out these episodes with what is your current read?
I love that. Right now, I'm reading a book called Twisted Souls. It's a romantasy by an author friend of mine, Shannon McLellan. I actually met her. We did a indie book fair together in Charlotte, and our booths were set up right next to each other. So that was a fun experience to kind of get to know a lot of local authors on the scene. And I'm still making my way through her book right now.
That's so fun. Wait, just the
Yeah.
title sounds so fun. I'm
I
excited.
know.
I'll have to look
Yeah,
into
very
that.
fun. I did a little book haul too. I got Wyatt by Jessica Peterson and The Passion Project by London Sperry. I haven't started those yet, but those are the
Okay.
last two books that I bought, so those will be next on the list.
We love little book hauls. That's so fun.
Yeah.
Okay.
What about you? What are you reading?
I am currently reading Wild and Wrangled by Lyla Sage,
Oh, nice.
and I'm also listening to, oh dear, Storyteller, I think, by Jodi Picoult.
Okay.
Very, very interesting book.
Yeah.
I don't really know. I don't know what her books are about until I just figure it out. Because I don't look at the synopsis or anything before reading, so I'm
Wait,
still
you
figuring it
don't?
out.
That's crazy. You don't know what you're getting
Yeah,
into?
no. Huh?
Wait, that's wild. You don't know what you're getting into? Like before you read a book, you don't read the synopsis?
Nope. I don't know
That's
why.
living
I
life on
just,
the edge.
yeah, I just like to figure it out on the way.
That's
And
like,
it's
oh,
not
so
that I don't like spoilers.
my mom's a huge reader too, and it makes me crazy because she'll, without fail, will always pick up a book and read the last page first. I'm like, that's also like serial kill behavior. Like, why, why would you do that?
Wait, see, your mom and I would be best friends because I do that too.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I take it back then.
No, it is a little serial killer behavior. I won't lie.
Too
That's funny.
funny.
Okay, I'm so excited to get into everything about you, especially since you just had a recent book release, correct?
I did. My sophomore novel just released. It's been out in the world for like 30 days now, which is wild.
That is so fun.
Yeah.
I'm so excited to get my hands on it. It's so cute looking.
Thank
Um,
you.
but yeah, I'll let you get into all of that as we as we go through the questions. I won't jump ahead. But my first question for you, Meg, is what brought you to the point where you finally sat down and said, I'm going to write this book and I'm going to publish it?
So my first book was called The Right Words. It's a contemporary romance kind of coming of age story. The new book that just came out is called The Wingman, similar genre. And I've always been I've always been a reader writer. I was that kind of weird kid in elementary school who much preferred indoor recess versus outdoor recess because I could, when it would rain, I would sit in the corner of the classroom and I distinctly remember it. I probably still have it somewhere. It was a teal 5 subject spiral bound notebook that I would write stories in. Was really good at starting them and really bad at finishing them. So not, yeah, no stories as a child were ever finished. Um, but I had a really awesome teacher in, it was 8th grade actually, in middle school. And I went to kind of a smaller charter school, and that was the first time that I had a little bit more creative freedom. And for our English assignments, instead of doing like normal book reports, I had told her that, hey, I really want to be a writer when I grow up. And she was the first one to really encourage me to turn in weekly chapters of the story that I was working on and never finished. Um, and then, yep. And then in high school, I took creative writing as an independent study, and then college, it was also my major. But like that whole time that I was trying to kind of immerse myself in language, and I loved it, but it never felt like it was a real thing that I could actually do. Even like when I declared my major in college and I had started like the intro to creative writing classes and the writing of fiction, with the amazing faculty that I went to Queen's University in Charlotte, and they were
Wow.
fantastic. Yeah, but it wasn't until maybe junior year, I think, I took a seminar in creative writing, and we read a book called The Hero's Journey, and it was essentially by Joseph Campbell. And it kind of became my Bible of sorts. And it was like the first time, because most of, especially like when you're in a classroom, there's so much to writing a novel, that is just so hard to pack into a semester. So a lot of the education that I had received was like short story and craft and like writing line by line and whatnot. So I hadn't had like a formal education on novel writing before, but reading that
Mhm.
book was the first time that it felt like it was something that I could do, because for the first time I had a formula, which like sounds so, like, I don't like saying that word, and I think a lot of writers don't like using that word formula, but for commercial novel writing, like we are innately programmed as humans, especially in like I would say today's social media age, to consume stories a certain way, and there is a formula that works for readers and viewers. Um, so once I got my hands on kind of that roadmap, I'm like, oh, it seemed way less of an abstract concept. And my advisor when I was in college was also a novelist. She had 2 books published, and I had gone to her my senior year, and I'm like, this is what I want to do. And she was actually the one that taught the class too. And so I asked, I'm like, is there any way I could have an independent study with you? Like, I have this idea for a book, and it was my first book was um, about 2 college students partnered together in an English classroom to write a love story for a contest. So I'm sitting in these English classrooms, and I had all this like material around me, and she agreed begrudgingly. I don't think she was thrilled about it in the beginning. And she was awesome. She made me work for it. I mean, we read in a semester like 3 different books about craft, 3 different books in my preferred romance genre, on top of actually turning in all the writing that ended up being my first draft for my first novel. And we got through probably, I would say, about 2/3 of the novel by the time I graduated college. And then over the summer, I took time to finish it.
Mhm.
So, but yeah, I think being in college and being around all of the creative writing curriculum, I always loved the idea of a story within a story. I was always drawn to books about other writers too. And up until this point, I hadn't read anyone like Emily Henry, who is now doing that very, very successfully.
Yeah.
Um, and so I always have been told and always say, write the book that you want to read. As someone who was really bad at finishing stories, the one that finally stuck with me was the one that I would have wanted to read on the shelf, and that's what turned into The Right Words.
Stop. I love that.
Thank
What an
you.
interesting, very just, I want to say like powerful, but also beautiful just journey you got going on there with like people helping you out, but also like I love how you're like, she was kind of begrudging about it, but I got her
Oh,
to
she
help me
absolutely was.
out.
I
And
love her
I,
to death. She's like my biggest mentor, and anytime if I do anything important, I'm like, "Are you proud of me? Like I really tried." Um, But no, I definitely in the beginning she's like, are we really doing this? And her name, I'll give her your name. Her name's Sarah Creech. She wrote 2 amazing books.
Oh,
And
okay.
I owe a lot of just the push to actually finish it to her. So
I love that. Those are usually the best people to help support you and things like that, like just to
yeah,
push you and stuff. I love that so
yeah,
much.
yeah.
Okay. Now, getting into the what is it, nuts and bolts of your craft and how you create. What do you have any writing routines? Are you a plotter or a pantser?
hmm
How do you build the craft?
I also have a bad running joke that even though I'm a creative writer, I'm one of the most least inspired people ever. Like, it sounds so whimsical and like romantic to be like, inspiration strikes me all the time, and I just sit down
Mhm.
and the words just flow from me. They don't. Like, it's hard. And I think one of the reasons I love writing so much is because I love living in story and I love
Mhm.
thinking about the story and I love reading and I love going back and editing what I've done. The actual act of like sitting down to do it is kind of excruciating. So I am not right by the seat of your pants person. I have to have a plan and I have to
Mhm.
have checklists and little boxes that I can physically check off and be like, yes, I wrote 500 words today. I deserve a treat. And yeah, definitely have to have a plan. And see other weird tactics that help me write. Um, a warm beverage. I like a mug. I like a
That.
mug. I'm also a coffee drinker at night. Like that won't make me stay up. I can drink normal calf coffee, so like either a coffee or a tea for writing at night. Um, and I do listen to music. I can't listen to words that I know, so like
Mhm.
instrumental or softer music. The big album that kind of played on repeat while I was in pretty heavy revisions of the right words was the Gracie Abrams album. Not the latest one, the one
Yes.
before.
Mhm.
Good
I don't know what
Riddance.
it's called.
Good Riddance. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
I listen to that one a lot. Um, but just kind of like softer music to
Yeah.
write. I can't have like TV or any sort of like actual like big words going on because I'll just go on a tangent and they're not my words and I gotta focus.
Valid. Valid.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, do you have like a writing spot? Do you have like a little corner of your house that you sit and write at, or do you have to go to a coffee shop? Where are you usually writing?
So probably a good time to introduce that I'm not a full-time writer. I have a day job and
Yes.
I am a professional horseback rider mostly.
That's so
Which
cool.
is yeah, very different. But the reason for bringing that up right now is because we travel a lot for competition. So
Okay.
unfortunately, I don't really have like one designated writing place that honestly that might help if I had, one place where my brain could say, now we write. But I end up in a lot of Airbnbs and hotels too. So I will say I can't write like laying in bed and relaxing,
Yeah.
like because it is like so much for my brain is okay, now we're working, now we're writing. I have to be sitting at a desk.
Hmm.
Hotel rooms tend to have those, so that's good. um but yeah, no, I do a lot of traveling too, so there's a lot of not one, I would say, location, just a lot of different places where okay, I gotta put the writing brain on it. It's usually at the end of the day, so I'm doing the horses and coaching and riding. um and competing. So at the end of the show day, I'll come back to the hotel and sit down and be like, okay, got to knock out my word count or get through this next chapter of edits.
Love, you got to adapt to your surroundings.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
chameleon.
impressive.
Thanks.
Okay, let's get into your publishing journey.
Okay.
I'd love for you to tell the listeners about your journey to publication and what the most surprising aspect of the journey was for you as you embarked on it.
Yeah, for sure. Um, well, honestly, first off, the most surprising thing about trying to write a book, about what was the hardest part, is it wasn't writing the book. Like everyone sort of like has that pipe dream of I want to write a book one day, but like it seems so daunting. By the time you can actually just again chip away at the word count and keep getting, even if it's a terrible draft, as long as you have something on the page, you can always work with that. But it's once
Hmm.
that first draft is written, you're like, oh my gosh, what do I do with it now? Um, And so you naturally progress into editing and revisions. And I was like, everyone that I love, please read my book. I did it and give me all the feedback. Um, so that, and honestly, that is helpful to have like a trusted group of readers. And I think there is a balance between having the readers, especially as a new author, a debut author, and you're so vulnerable putting yourself out there. You need that group of readers that's like, you're awesome, you did it. And that's kind of, boost the confidence. And then you need the group of readers to be like, no, but this is how you can do it better.
Hmm.
Because it is such a vulnerable state to be in, to be putting your work out in the world for the first time, fifth time, tenth. Like I think at any point, it's a piece of your soul that you're putting out there. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah. So once the words are written, you go through the edits. As you know, you have to, if you have dreams of publishing, you got to go in the query trenches, which at that point I had graduated college and I had no idea what that was. And so I was getting a crash course via Google, um, how to publish a book. And I think when I first started querying the right words, my query letter wasn't nearly as strong as it needed to be. Um, my list of agents were not probably as well researched as they should have been. The top hits of the Olympians of who you would want to represent you
Yes.
were the first ones that came up on the Google search. Um, so with that came a lot of rejection, which is part of the business, and you got to learn to develop a thick skin.
Mhm.
Which thankfully, having gone through all the workshopping in college, started to prepare me for that. But it was definitely like a real world crash course of, oh, this is going to be a little bit harder than I thought. The hard part wasn't writing the book. It's now what do I do with it? So the right words then underwent another big round of revision changes and spent a lot of time rebuilding the list, taking more time to dive into what other kind of agents were out there who would best represent, my genre, who was up and coming. Um, Met with a lot of rejection again. And at that point, I had learned there was so many different avenues to publication. Um, so the three main ways you can publish a book are traditionally publishing,
Hmm.
self-publishing, where you are the one doing all the work to get it up on the internet and distribute it however you can, and then the publisher that I actually ended up signing with is a hybrid publisher, and a hybrid publisher combines different elements of both self and traditional publishing. And it really, really worked for me with this first book because I still had to go through the querying process. I still had to
Hmm.
be accepted by them. But by the time I got the contract and I was signed with them, I ended up having a lot more freedom and a lot more control over what happened with my book. I was a lot more, I would say, directly involved than I thought I would have been had I gone with a traditional route.
Yeah.
Um, it was a very cool experience to have a lot more, I would say, hands-on in the making of the book, which at that point we still underwent three more rounds of developmental edits, three more rounds of line edits, then copy edits, then cover design. Like we went through the whole 9 yards. And at that point, I'm like, I
Hmm.
never want to read about these characters again. I felt too close to them. I knew them in and out. And at that point, I was like, I can't possibly do anything else. But it was really nice to then have a fresh set of eyes and be like, well, have you thought about this? And what if
Hmm.
we went this way? I'm like, well, no, but yes, you're right. Let's do it. And the
Like,
book
all
became
right.
so much stronger. And it definitely taught me a lot. I had the same publisher, a different group of editors working on the second book, The Wingman. But at that point, I knew a lot more. I had learned a lot about writing, editing, story building, publishing,
Hmm.
just the whole world. So I owe a lot to the first book for, you know, opening the door, and then I'm very excited about this new book. So I feel like okay, you're always learning, you're always developing your own set of skills, but I hope readers can see a growth because I tried new things, I tried new storytelling techniques, and I'm
Yeah.
hoping they paid off. I think they paid off, but readers will tell, I guess. So, but it was a fun journey, very fun.
How interesting. I don't think I've ever, like, I think maybe I've heard of hybrid publishing, but I don't
Hmm.
think I don't know, what is it, like cognizantly thought about it. So
Yeah,
it's interesting. I'm very curious. Um, just can you, okay, can you kind of break it down a little bit
yeah,
more for me? I know that
yeah, for sure,
it wasn't
for
on the
sure.
agenda, but I'm very curious.
No, I love it.
So, like, I don't know where, I don't even know what to ask, honestly.
I got you. I got you. All right.
Okay,
So
okay, thank you.
that was one of my favorite things to talk about whenever it's like, how did you publish a book? I'm like, well, I did it different.
Yeah.
um, so like I said, you still have to query. So I sent in, I think, to my publisher now the query letter. I think they requested the full manuscript up front. And so the waiting
Wow.
time to hear back was very long, because they had to get through the whole book.
Hmm.
And once, they sent me the contract and reviewed, um, I signed with them. Like I said, we have 3 rounds of developmental edits where at that point the story's still changing. It's still being manipulated scene by scene. Then we move into line edits and then copy edits. But I think the biggest difference between that where hybrid kind of separates itself is, with self-publishing, you are responsible for the marketing, the financial upfront costs. You're responsible for everything. And so to a
Yeah.
degree, the element that I would say hybrid pulls from self-publishing is I have to put a monetary investment into the book, like self-publishing.
Okay.
So I pay for their services upfront. But on the flip
Okay.
side, I own 100% of the rights to the book. I didn't sell the rights; it's my book, and
Okay.
I get higher royalties on the backside as well, on top of all the control and freedom that I had. So with the Wingman, um, I was a little bit braver the second round. And
Yeah.
I went to the publisher and I'm like, hey, this book is about art. And it's very important to me that the cover is designed by an artist. And I
Hmm.
have this local artist that I've seen her work, and I would love the opportunity to reach out and work with her directly for the cover. And I think in a traditional setting, I would not have had that freedom to be able to say,
Yeah.
yeah, explore it. But with this company, they were very much so on board to be like, yeah, let's try it and pull in someone we haven't used before. So that was very special that
Yeah.
we were able to do that. I hope that answered
Interesting.
some of your
Okay.
not questions.
No, no, definitely. No, that definitely gave me a better picture of
To
like
clear it
how
up.
hybrid
Yeah.
works.
I
So,
picture like a Venn diagram and we're just like in the middle.
yeah, no, that's very interesting. Okay. Hmm.
Thanks. So yeah,
And by the
there's
way, that
go ahead.
sorry, continue.
Oh no, you're up.
Oh, I was just by the way, your cover is gorgeous. It definitely portrays that
Thank
art.
you. Thank you.
So,
Actually, I think
that's
it's
all I was
sitting
gonna say.
behind me. Hold on, wait. There she is.
Yes, show it off.
There we are.
Stunning. No,
Yeah,
I
no, she
love it.
she
I
did an
love all the
amazing
colors.
job. So very lucky.
Absolutely. Okay, what were you gonna say?
I don't even know. I've derailed. The brain's going off on another tangent.
I'm sorry. Yeah, okay.
Oh, we're
Thank you
good.
for
We're good.
explaining all that.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay. Um, Now, what is something you wish someone would have told you when you were just an aspiring author, still working on your first book? Anything you wish someone just would have, any advice?
Oof. Well, definitely the bit about writing the book isn't the hardest part. That was a
Yeah.
culture shock once we got there. I'm like, okay, what I gotta do now? Um, and I mean, there's that day old advice of you become a better writer by being a better reader. Always, I think reading within your genre is very important. Reading within your aspiring genres. If you ever wanted to try something new, got to read the greats who did it before you.
Hmm.
The other piece of reading that I personally have done a lot this year too. The Wingman was pretty much edited, ready to go out, and I was toying with the idea of what book 3 would be. Get your hands on as many books on craft as possible. So, like I had mentioned earlier, the Joseph Campbell book about the hero's journey, but there's so many other good resources out there that kind of play into those storytelling arcs and storylines in general, and kind of dissecting what works in books that are already out there. And then once you can kind of pick up on patterns of how novel planning and plotting works, I think in a great way it supports, I would say, me as a writer, because obviously it makes you stronger, but it kind of
Hmm.
really derails me as a reader then, because now it's hard to read for pleasure and be like, oh, I'm just simply enjoying it. Now I'm a reader that's like, I see what you're doing, and
Yeah.
it's working, and I want to do that too. But it definitely makes me look for patterns in other people's writing too, and it's true. Like I do think we are very programmed to consume a very certain sort of arc. Um,
Hmm.
And now that, I'm reading more and more about that craft, I could see it more and more too. And then I'm hoping at that point it's easier to try to emulate.
Yeah, no, love that. And you know what you said, um, with the formula, I completely agree. I know this is like way back to the beginning, but it kind of ties in with what you were saying is that we are programmed to see that kind of arc. I completely agree that there is a very like foundational formula, and then we can obviously twist it any way we can to create stories that are
Yeah.
unique and eye-catching and stuff. But I very much agree, like there is foundational things you have to know and understand to be able to create a story that is unique.
Yeah.
So
Well, and like you said too, like once you know the rules, then you can bend them and play with them too.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Very, very great way to say that.
Nice. I think a professor told me that too. I don't think I actually came up with that, but
I'm giving you the credit.
thanks.
Have you ever thought about giving up? And if so, what kept you going?
Oh, absolutely. I don't think if there's any writer, wannabe author out there that says they haven't felt like that, I think they're lying. Um, it's imposter syndrome is real. It's so real. And I remember this is kind of like a tangent of a story. Um, I did a study abroad trip for only 2 weeks, but we went to London and when I was in college, and we were reading British literature and being surrounded by the greats that did it
Mm-hmm.
before us. And there's this kind of sinking feeling of you're never going to be as great as them because they were the first to do it. And at this point, like, yes, we're trying to come up with original ideas and original, concepts, but again, that arc of the story already exists. So it's so hard to, feel like you can get where you want to go when there's so many other people that came before you. And how do you do it first, and then how do you do it and stand out too?
Yeah.
I think the thing that kept me going for book one especially was it was a story that I wanted to read. I felt very passionate about, if I like it, maybe one other person might like it too. Um, and just a little bit stubborn in the sense that I really wanted to see my book in my hands. I really wanted to see it on the shelf. And so that mental image of I can't do that if I don't finish this
Mm-hmm.
really kind of kept me going too. But the imposter syndrome is hard. I think a lot of us have it because again,
Absolutely.
you're so vulnerable, like putting your words on the page, like even if it's pure fiction. Like I mentioned, again, the first book was about writers in a college campus. Now the story itself is very fictional, but I was a writer in a college campus.
Yeah.
So and I think again going back to kind of taking inspiration from everyday life, like there's pieces of people that I would see, brief little interactions that I would have that would weave its way into story. And so putting whatever minuscule amount of personal
Mm-hmm.
detail into a story can be hard to then to think, oh, what if someone reads it and they don't like it? But I think the thing that can keep us all going is what if they read it and they do?
Perfectly said. Very,
Thank you.
very well said.
Thanks.
Okay, we're on a little bit of a fun rapid fire round. Now, you
All
kind of
right.
mentioned something fun about you, but outside of being an author, what is a fun fact about you that most people don't know?
The horses. I ride horses.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I started riding when I was 6 years old, and I didn't stop. I ended up turning professional at 18, and I work for my family's business called Fairy Tale Farms, which is kind of ironic as I am a writer as well.
That's
um,
cute.
Thanks. Yeah, so we compete nationally. We travel probably at least 2 weeks every month, sometimes more. Um, we do a lot of buying and selling horses and training them and coaching kids and adults. So that does take up a majority of the time. And when I was in college, I was, like I said, already turned professional and was trying to balance the horse showing and getting the college education. And I think because I kind of lived to torture myself, I did a lot of work around college too. I was a tutor in the writing center, and I also worked for our school's literary magazine. And by senior year, I was senior editor for that as well. So very,
Look at you
very busy.
go. Yeah.
And then other weird hobbies, well, hopefully not weird, but different hobbies that I have. Um, I like art, which is, again, kind of the inspiration for book number two. So a lot of the wall art in my house I've done. I like to paint. I like crafts. My sister got all the performing arts talent. She does dance and theater and all those, and I did my hand at visual arts. Um, so other sports, nope, not for me. I could not hit a ball to save my life. But the crafts, I'm your girl.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You are a woman of many talents.
It's a lot. At some point, I should take a nap, I would think, but we're still going.
What's the fun in that?
Yeah.
Sanity, whatever. Just kidding.
It's fine. They call it tortured artist for a reason, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I love that. Are there any out-of-pocket genres you would like to try your hand at in writing? And by out-of-pocket, it could be like something you haven't written in or truly out of pocket.
Um, Nothing crazy, but I have been reading so much romantasy, and spoiler, I think book three might be heading there. It's still very much so in the planning stages.
Mm-hmm.
Like quite literally, there are okay, in terms of planning, we're gonna derail again. Planning, I have to plan, like I said, but I think for writers that are planners, I mean, I maybe I'm the anomaly, but there's no one right way to do it. Like I think there's lots of different ways that work for a lot of different people, and I'm still learning mine. I've got two books done and one up on sticky notes in my spare bedroom right now. And I haven't done the sticky note method before. Like book one was just lots of random note cards and notebooks and nothing was organized, but it was all written down and like moving things around on my floor. And then book two was actually I had one document that was very planned. And because book two does a dual perspective and dual timeline. So all the scenes had to be very meticulously organized. Book three is literally on sticky notes on the wall right now. It's all over the place, but I'm hoping like having that visual aspect will help to actually try to nail it down. Because with thinking about doing a genre shift into a world that I've consumed a lot, but I haven't really tried writing yet, I think I've always been a little bit afraid at it because I think you can do fantasy poorly if you don't know your world very well. You don't know your characters very well. And I was very conscious of at some point I would love to get there, but I knew like I had to learn more about writing novels first before I would try it for me. There's some fantastic debut fantasy authors out there, and for me, I think I was a little scared. So that's where I'd like to be heading. Whether it actually ends up being book three or not, that'd be something I want to try.
That's exciting. That's
Yeah.
super exciting. Do you have a favorite trope to read or write in?
Ooh, okay. Favorite trope to read? Okay, this is gonna sound bad, but I really am a sucker for those micro tropes of who did this to you, and when the male main character comes in and sees the female main character injured, and like all those feelings that he was trying to avoid come out in like a rage. I'm a sucker for a good torture scene, which sounds like bad, but along like those same threads of like I like all those feelings you've been trying to avoid, like they're out now because you got to protect your lady. That's my guilty pleasure. I do really love reading those.
Valid.
Yeah. In terms of writing tropes, though, I don't know if this is a real trope, and because I'm saying I don't know if it's a real trope, it's probably not, and I don't even know what you would call it. But I had actually this kind of self-realization epiphany of I didn't mean to do it, but I've kind of done it twice now with both my books. And I called it the Gatsby trope in my head. Again, I don't know if this is a real thing or if I just a theme that I've noticed in my writing that okay, I can acknowledge it. I'd like to try not to do that again. And I think it worked for these two books, but my main character in the first book, um, obviously has an arc and a journey that she went on. But a lot of her journey, I think, was stimulated by um, the male main character's story as well.
Mhm.
So, Gatsby's story was narrated by Nick Carraway, but it's like how Nick was affected by the story of Gatsby. And I feel like I've kind of done that now where my side characters were they were the story. And so it's how the main character was changed by them.
Okay.
And then I did mention that the second book is dual perspective. So you do have two main characters, but it becomes pretty evident early on, I would say, I don't think this is a spoiler, that the female main character is the true main character. But when I first
Hmm.
started writing the book, I really thought it was my dude. Like I really thought it was going to be his story. But it certainly became a story of how she changed, but how he was changed by his relationship with her as well. Um,
Well,
so I accidentally did that twice. It wasn't on purpose, and I would like to on purpose try to do something else.
I think that is a very unique but also like intelligent, I don't know, way about a story. I think that's very cool. Just being
Thanks. It
able
happened on
to,
accident. I don't think it was intelligent, but
it's subconscious intelligence. I think it's very cool.
thank you, thank you. Yeah, no, it
Well,
definitely was like interesting to like. Okay, now the second book's out, and I'm just, starting to get some feedback on it, and I'm like, wait, like this this is kind of the storytelling theme that readers are taking away from. Um, which I do think I would say it is kind of prevalent to some relationships in everyday life too. Like people come into your lives and you know leave their mark in some form or fashion too.
hmm,
So
love that. Love. Okay. Um, so you kind of hinted that book three might be a romantasy, but are anything what's next for you? Do you have like any exciting events coming up? Any teasers on any other future projects? Anything like that?
again, I haven't given up being the girl that's really good at starting stories and really bad at finishing them. So there are several options out there, and I've had rotated between three main ones. I'd say one is the fantasy book, and it's been I couldn't even try to pitch it to you right now. It's so many different. It's like all my favorite tropes trying to put into one. As someone who's not great at writing tropes, obviously, because I did an accidental, not real trope, and again wanting to shift and expand different skill sets. So I'm not even gonna try to pitch it to you. It's fantasy and it's its own new world, new
Hmm.
magic system. Which again, very daunting, so it might take a long time. Another idea that I've been toying with is another contemporary coming of age book. Um, and so my first book was about love and writers. The second book's about love and artists. This one would be about love and photographers, and has very much so Speak Now, Taylor Swift vibes of little love triangle action. I haven't written a love triangle yet, so that would be fun if I were to explore that book. And then the third book that I'm kicking and screaming and digging my heels in about not wanting to write yet, but I'm sure I will at one point, is a horse book. Because it would make like total sense to combine both of my jobs into one. Um,
Yes.
and I do have kind of a rough outline for, I think it'd be more young adult focused um, for a horse book. It would be rotating three different perspectives of three different girls that are all riding together within the same barn, and it's like their last summer before they go to college. So at some point, that one will see the light of day, but not yet.
Love. I
I
am
think it's hard to write what
curious.
you're closest to too. Like it's a lot easier to kind of
Absolutely.
put a veil of fiction up and get words on the page, but that's what I'm telling myself anyway. Why I haven't written it.
No, absolutely. I can totally get behind that. It's definitely feels better to have like a little bit of a wall, but I think
Mhm.
you could make something absolutely great with some horse themes. That would be so cool, actually. I'd love to read that just to see that inside. look of everything. Because I've never worked with horses, so that would be very interesting to see
Well, maybe you'll
a little bit
convince
of your
me.
life in that. Love. I am curious.
Hmm.
Um, do you think you will stick with like hybrid publishing? Would you consider self-publishing or even trying to go traditional route? Like, or do you like hybrid publishing? This is just me trying to understand it more still.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's a great question. And definitely one that I've kind of toyed with as well. I am very indebted to my publishers. Obviously, they helped me get now two books out on bookshelves.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I'm very happy with the product that was created with those two books and the journey for those two books. Um, I do think, especially if I were to pursue the fantasy one, because it's so complicated in my head,
Yeah.
and it's gonna take a while to build and formulate. That would be one that I would be very interested in trying to do a traditional route. Now, I think unfortunately, from a business standpoint, I'm a little bit late to that game. Romantasy is very hot right now, and we all know as writers, trends come and go. But it is
Mm-hmm.
something that I am, obviously passionate about. It's something I read and consume a lot. Um, at some point when that one project is completed, that would be the one that I would say I want to get back in the query trenches again and try. Um, I think for some, I'm not opposed to self-publishing either at this
Yeah.
point, from a monetary standpoint, specifically because, especially, so I'm from Charlotte, North Carolina. There's, I'm sure, tons of different cities around the country that have amazing indie author communities. I've been very fortunate to kind of start to build relationships via the internet, social media, book fairs, and events, and really trying to cultivate those friendships and relationships because it's, especially in our town, it's an amazing support group too. And I'm learning a lot of about different authors and their journeys and how successful they can be in the indie publishing world as
Mm-hmm.
well too. Um, I think for me it would be a little bit tough with the day job that consumes all daylight hours,
Yes.
because it is, like, again, with self-publishing, there's so much on you that's not just the market, or sorry, not just the writing, but it is the marketing and the post-production as well. Um, but there's some amazing local bookstores that really celebrate and take on indie authors and want to support local authors too. And I think I would say Book Talk has done a great job in social media nowadays exploiting some big brand name series, but they're also doing a really good job of, again, kind of cultivating those relationships within readers and writers, and just it's way more accessible for readers to get their hands on indie author books, and way easier to for those indie authors to get their works out in the world as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Meg, I'm just this was very informative for me. I know it will be for the listeners, so I'm just so thankful that we got to chat today. Your journey is so incredible and I've learned a lot. And I'm so looking forward to everything you create in the future, getting my hands on the right words. Wingman, I know everybody needs to go out there and buy those books, but thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for joining me here today. You seriously are just amazing. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, I am so honored that we were able to do this. This is so much fun. I love listening to the podcast, and I can't wait to keep following along with everyone that you pull on. And I think it's a great resource too for all the writers and readers to learn more about the ins and outs of the industry. So I definitely applaud you for putting the show together. It's fantastic.
Thank you. I'm so happy because, okay, when you said like you went to Google to figure out how to do publishing, that was me like
Yeah,
trying to figure out, the sponsored ads and figure
yeah.
out how to do publishing. So I just hope, if anything, it can be something for other aspiring authors to learn from the journeys of other authors that are successfully getting their books out there and just seeing all the many different ways there are to getting into the world of publishing. Like, I
Agreed.
just learned a new way to get into the world of publishing through you today. And so, and just seeing that there's everyone comes from all walks of life. Like, I don't know. It's just, thank you.
Oh,
That meant a lot to me.
well, you mean a lot to me too. This has been great.
I'm so glad we're friends now. Okay.
Yeah, me too.
Well, I'd love to keep chatting with you. I'm going to go ahead and close out with the listeners, but thank y'all for listening. We will see y'all I'll see y'all next Thursday with another guest, but we love y'all.
I'll be listening next Thursday.
Oh, yay. Yay. We'll see you next Thursday then. Okay, bye.
Bye.